Is the problem with you is you're whining like a little fucking baby.
Got this hair everywhere, huh? Hair game is strong. Welcome everyone to this episode of Ask Papa Swolio. Thank you so much for asking your questions. And remember, if you want your question featured right here on the show, just drop your question in the comments down below with the hashtag AskPapaSwolio so I can get to them as soon as I can. Let's jump right into today's episode with the first question. This one is from late November. And she asks, Papa Swolio, I am a bigger girl with lots of body fat to lose. Do you suggest I focus on fat loss first as opposed to building muscle? I want to drop weight but keep my curves. Thank you for the compliment at the end. Thanks for all the great info you put out into the social media fitness world. Thank you for watching. Thanks for tuning in. So you want to keep your curves, which means you're going to have to lift weights. You're only going to have shape if you build muscle. Shape is from the muscle that you're building. So it's very important that you focus on developing muscle. There's a big misconception when it comes to weight loss. Everyone's always asking, should I do cardio first to lose the weight and then build, as if your body only does one thing and then will just only focus on something else. Your body is always doing both. Your body is always building muscle, repairing muscle tissue. Your body is always metabolizing fats when you're at rest, when you're in the gym, when you're sleeping. Your body is always doing all of those things. I would recommend starting with lifting weights in addition to doing your cardiovascular activity and yoga and meditation with your nutrition, with your sleeping properly, with your hydration, all those other aspects. You don't want to wait to do weight training because that will help increase your metabolism. That will help give your body some more lean tissue to build and to develop as you metabolize more fats. And at the beginning, when you first start strength training, you're gonna lose fat at the same time. You're gonna lose fat as you build muscle before you get to that point where you lean out, you lose that extra inflammatory weight, you get rid of those newbie gains and those initial weeks and months of progress. Once you get a few months into it and you're consistent and disciplined, you're gonna learn a lot more about your body, and then you can reassess where you are and how you should be progressing your training then. Question from TF. Papa Swolio, do you need to lift heavy to grow muscle on the glutes? I do not go to the gym and I don't have heavy weights at home. What do you recommend? You don't necessarily need dumbbells or barbells. It's the overload that you can provide. So if you have that with bands, if you have that with dumbbells, with barbells, if you just have body weight, you're gonna have to focus more on single leg exercises, more time under tension, moving slowly through the positions. But there are definitely ways that you can grow your glutes. You can do plyometrics once you're ready for it. But if you're just starting out and you're asking a question like this, you're probably not ready for anything explosive and high risk and high impact. So I would recommend getting some weights or getting some bands at home. They're not expensive, especially for lighter weights when you're just getting into it, but doing some of the basics, focusing on activating your glutes with 2-leg hip bridges, 1-leg hip bridges. You could do single leg squats. You could do a lot of stuff along with yoga, with glute activation, with just body weight, and see a lot of progress. And if anything, prepare you for heavier weights once you acquire some or once you have access to a gym. Question from Betty Biscotti. Papa Swolio, is there such a thing as too much protein? I am 5 foot 2 inches tall and I'm 110 pounds and I aim for 110 grams of protein a day, but I have been at 50 grams over some days. I train 4 to 5 days a week and I don't want to get too fat as I have a wedding dress, which I've been measured recently in to fit for November. You want to lift as heavy as possible to build muscle, but you don't want to get too big because you have a wedding dress to fit into. You got a whole bunch of conflicts going on right here. You're definitely getting in a lot of protein with 110 grams. You're not going to need that much. You do not need a gram per pound of body weight because protein is based on needs for your lean muscle mass, not your overall weight. So you're measuring your skeleton, you're measuring your organs, you're measuring your body fat when you take your absolute scale weight. So you're giving yourself 110 grams of protein based on your overall pull into the earth. You do not need that much. So it depends on what your body fat percentage is. And usually you need about 0.8 grams per kilogram-ish of body weight. So you probably only really need 50 to 80 grams a day. Usually that kind of bro science approach where it's like 1 to 2 grams of protein is far overkill and you don't need quite so much. If you're trying to fit into a wedding dress, you have obviously some other situations you have to pay attention to. So it's hard for me to give any advice because I don't really know what you're trying to fit into and how that relays into what you've been doing for weight training. So what you're doing for training, I don't know anything about you, just what you posted here, but congratulations on your wedding. And I would focus on your nutrition, training, and just keep an eye on what you're gaining. If you're eating the right amount of food, you're not gonna be getting fat. So just stay around a maintenance or maybe a slight deficit and just keep your protein on the higher end if you're trying to still train hard, but not put on too much size, and just keep an eye on everything and adjust small increments when you need to. Question from Pablo Recio. Papa Swolio, I am a runner training for a couple of half marathons and my first marathon hopefully in February of next year. I love running and tried other ways of training like CrossFit and weights, but they don't appeal to me to the same extent as running. I do want to lose some body fat as I'm not looking very lean right now. My nutrition is not terrible and my weight is keeping stable. Any advice? Well, if you say that your nutrition is not terrible, it probably is terrible. I'm sorry, but usually if you think it's decent, if someone's telling me that their nutrition is decent, it's probably far below decent. And that's not to insult you, but usually people that think they're eating properly have a lot of places that they can tighten things up. So I would check out my content on the elimination diet. I would look into inflammatory foods that you might be consuming. I would try removing certain food groups from your nutrition for an extended period of time, 6 to 8 weeks, to see how you react to them, see if there are any little loopholes and things that you can find with your nutrition. And when it comes to resistance training, it's important. I think resistance training is great for running. You'll probably keep it more moderate, higher repetitions. You won't do as much volume and as much frequency as you will with your running. But if you're not already doing this, add yoga to your routine. Even whether or not you agree with me or you add weights, no matter what you do, add yoga to your routine. It'll help with your recovery. It'll help lean you out some potentially because of the muscles you'll be hitting, and it will certainly help balance you out for your running. Question from Dave Hammonds. Papa Swolio, I am curious to your thoughts on Pilates. Is it effective as a training regimen for beginners to get started? Asking for my wife. My thoughts on Pilates are very limited. I don't have a lot of personal experience with Pilates. From what I've seen, it's a great low impact way to start. So I'm all about anything that works on strengthening lesser targeted muscles, creating balance in the body, and that's low impact, especially for starting. So whether it's Pilates, yoga, or some stabilization training, I would recommend it. Question from Matt Solomon. Papa Swolio, what kind of coffee do you drink and what is your coffee making process? I prefer organic single origin blends. I get whole bean because I like to do a coarse grind and I like my French press. And that gets a much darker, richer, and more oily type of coffee because you're just soaking that coffee in the grinds. But you wanna make sure it's a coarse grind, otherwise it's gonna get through the filter and you lose a little bit more of that flavor and you'll probably burn the coffee. So you could do that, you could do a pour over, but I make a lot of coffee. I have a big French press that I like. Another good method is also cold brew. Cold brew is great because I live in Florida, so a nice iced coffee is great. But a cold brew is also effective because it lowers the acidity and it also increases the caffeine content because the water and the grinds are just soaking in there. So you can look up some little simple systems. You just fine grind the coffee. I think it's fine or coarse. I don't know, you can look it up. And then you just put it and you pretty much soak it in water for like 16 hours. So they have these little contraptions you can get on Amazon, really simple to make your own cold brew. So that's a great aspect if you like cold coffee and you like to up your caffeine content. Question from Mrs. Madness. Papa Swolio, what is the best way to get out of a training rut where you flatline as far as results go? So she's referring to a plateau. Love your content, you motivate me to push further. Well, awesome, I'm super stoked for that. Thank you for the compliment. And the best way to get out of a training rut is generally to avoid getting in that rut in the first place. So what I like to bring everyone's attention back to is how are you determining your training rut? Like right there, you say as far as results go, how are you measuring your results? Looking in the mirror? Are you weighing yourself? Are you doing body fat measurements? Like how are you measuring your progress? How are you perceiving? What are you determining your plateau on? Because a lot of people do this improperly. They think they're at a plateau when they might just be at a very gradual incline. So if you look at a gradual slope incline at a really small segment, you actually realize that it's going up, but when you look at it super close, it almost looks flat. So overall, the bigger picture is what's really important. Anytime someone has a struggle with a plateau where they feel like they're in a rut, I always like to refer them to meditation because it's your perception of your journey. Your journey is gonna look different than mine, different than someone else that you see that had amazing results. Your journey is yours and yours alone. So if you can perceive and approach your own training and your life with a better mindset, a lot of what you're probably experiencing as a plateau is just a small snippet of time, and you just need to look at your progress in a different light. You need to approach your training or your nutrition a little differently, maybe go back to some of the fundamentals, kind of clean up, do a little house cleaning, spring cleaning. A lot of times people get really used to doing their daily activities the same way. They get in a routine and they don't realize where they're slacking until they step back and get some perspective. So check out my content on the elimination diet, check out my content on proper activation, check out my content on yoga, and definitely get started with a guided meditation. You can download a bunch of great apps in the App Store. Question from Amy Cormer. Papa Swolio, I am a plus-sized girl on my way to getting fit, and I absolutely detest cardio. I have a few questions for you. How necessary is it to do cardio to lose weight? What is your opinion on strictly lifting for weight loss? Is it doable? Yes, it's absolutely doable. When you are lifting for weight loss, it's just you being in a caloric deficit. So whether or not you are consuming more calories than you're utilizing or less calories will determine your weight gain or weight loss over a period of weeks. What you need to refocus on is what you're trying to accomplish in the end. Weights are very important. I always say use cardio and sprinkle that on top. You don't have to focus only on cardio, but make sure if you're thinking about weight loss, understand that when you're lifting weights, you're creating inflammation. You're creating an environment that your body has to repair and build. So you might be gaining weight, you might be retaining water because you're breaking down your muscles in new fashion. So don't just depend on a scale if you're lifting weights. Your weight might stall out, your weight might fluctuate. I would recommend lifting and training hard, but I would recommend also being in a slight caloric deficit. That way you can continue to build muscle or put your body in a position where it has the energy that it can pull from to build muscle, and also not, bonk out your hormones and everything like that, but also provide you a deficit where you can lose weight loss consistently. Remember, it's a process, it's a journey, and the way you eat and the way you train and the way that looks on paper or to you, that's going to be different for everyone. So don't bias your training towards whatever you've seen someone else do, what someone else has had success with. You're going to have to customize and tweak your training in your manner to fit your lifestyle. So it's definitely not necessary. You can lose weight just by eating less, period, without exercising. But weight training will give you that nice framework. It'll give you more lean mass. It'll help you be healthier. It'll help support your body, carry around the extra body weight as you lose that extra weight and extra fat while you focus on your nutrition, all those other things. Just remember that it's all a practice and it's okay to tweak and adjust things as you move on. I would recommend doing both, but biasing your training more towards strength training, yoga, meditation, and then adding in cardio when you have time as appropriate with your weight training regimen. Well, thank you so much everyone for joining me for this episode of Ask Papa Swolio. Remember, if you want your question answered here on the show, just drop your question in the comments down below with the hashtag AskPapaSwolio, and I will get to them as soon as I can. Thanks for joining me in the garage again. It was a nice windy day, but it's nice, it's beautiful. We got it done. Thanks again for joining me. I'll see you next time. Peace.
Click the link, motherfucker! Click the link! Click the link! Watch another video, like and subscribe. I know you want to. You know you want to. Come on, everyone knows you want to. You love Papa Swolio. You love the man bun. You love the sick fucking gains. You love it. Oh, oh, oh. You love it. Oh, 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 oh.